So we set that as a main focus, that we're going to launch a new flavor every month on the 16th, which is a very difficult goal, especially as you're expanding across the country, building distribution, etc. But I just thought that was a core principle of 16 Handles. Turns out that was never a thing for 16 Handles, but we've now made it one.
Hi, it's Emily Washkovic, Yelp small business expert, and the host of Behind the Review. This is the show where I sit down with business owners and industry leaders to uncover the real stories, surprising moments, and creative decisions that shape standout businesses. And I hope it helps you get inspired, scale your business, and grow your bottom line. Today, you're going to hear a conversation I had with Neil Hershman, the current CEO of Froyo franchise brand 16 Handles. Neil started as an owner of just one location before becoming CEO. And in today's interview, he shared a story he hasn't shared with anyone about a misconception he had about the brand before starting there, and how it's turned into one of their best business decisions. Let's give our conversation a listen. We are here on Behind the Review. Today, we have a very special guest, Neil Hershman, and he has had quite the journey with a brand called 16 Handles. He now has title of CEO, but it has been a journey of many roles at the company. Why don't you give us an introduction, Neil, of who you are and a little bit about 16 Handles?
Yes, it has been a journey indeed. So I originally come from a finance background, born in New York, went to college in DC, I actually studied both finance and astrophysics, but went into finance because the money side was more enticing than astrophysics for the time being. So went into finance and kind of had a career in sort of investment banking, asset management, for a little while, but it just wasn't fulfilling the way that I wanted a career to be. And especially seeing some of the older people at my office who were making great money, everything, was relatively good, but I don't know if they felt that they had the purpose that like I had always wanted and seeked in a career. So decided to step away into some other projects and ventures. And one of those I thought wanted to be either a bar or a food business, something in the feeding people sphere. And I met with the folks from 16 Handles, where I was a very avid customer of a store that was around the block from where I lived at the time. And we just had a really great conversation because they were in a position where the franchisor at the time had grown the brand organically, but had kind of hit a plateau, and at the same time had their own families and kind of grew out of the brand interest-wise, and was kind of working on other passion projects while also managing 16 Handles. And for me, that was so interesting because it meant there was room for like an active owner operator to make changes, and they were okay with that. And I wanted like some kind of position where I could say, hey, I go to the store all the time. There are some things wrong with it. Like here's my few things. And I'm sure you guys could fix them. But instead, it made more sense that I fix them. And so I actually ended up acquiring some of the corporate locations, the very first location off an SBA loan, like so many people in franchising do. And it was a store with 10 years of history, 10 years of profits behind it. But in one summer of then focusing on the store all in, open to close, every single shift I was working, I was able to really advance the business, especially bring in additional revenue on the top line, to the point where the profit was so great that I decided to leave all my other projects and just focus on 16 Handles, and acquired additional stores. COVID hit, started building stores in the collapse of retail New York City, when all of a sudden every space was somewhat available and you could get cheap leases. So instead of getting scared, I was the one coming in and building. And at some point, it just made sense to grow larger than what I would be able to grow in New York City, and take ownership of the brand, and kind of all the lessons that I had learned building in kind of the 2020s through mid 2023 and 2024 at the time, into franchising that out, because it is a very scalable concept. It's just hard for a single person to scale as large as and powerful as a brand that really has that potential behind it in an industry that in reality has plateaued and has room for a brand to really take off in. And so I felt 16 Handles was in the position to that, and so did the former owners. Um, they just weren't the people to do it at that time, and so it was a great chance for them to step away, me to step into the role. And yeah, that's where we've been for the last almost 3 years, coming up at the end of the summer, of really advancing the brand, modernizing it, and then scaling it.
That's incredible. And give me a little description. Like, what is the vibe, no matter the location, of a 16 handle store? What's the experience
Yeah,
like?
that would have been a good place to start for people who have no idea what we're talking about. 16 Handles is a frozen yogurt concept. So, everyone has probably seen a self-serve frozen yogurt concept of one brand or another. The big difference is 16 Handles was built, originally born in New York, so built for more of a millennial, upscale, uh, um, older crowd, I'd say. Whereas a lot of other brands in this space go after the kids market, and then sometimes their parents will get a Froyo, but it's really for that after school rush. Where 16 Hills never focused on that. Kids, of course, still love the product, but it was never the focus behind the marketing or the brand vibe or the brand culture. Or employees and how they treat customers. It was always focused on the after dinner rush. Where do you go post date, or with your family after a movie or after a show or anything like that? 16 Handles is the place. And then we've kind of grown that to what I call the broad millennial customer base. And it's very much designed to be like if you imagine a Starbucks or a Panera Bread met with a nightclub. Because we are totally the nighttime vibe. We're not serving coffee. So that was kind of the ambition, is like make this really cool, fun place for nighttime, but also it's upscale and it's modern and it's like way nicer and better vibes than other Froyo shops that feel like they're for kids. And it is a larger product than just Froyo at this point. It's the vegan soft serve and the ice creams, but I think in spirit we all still refer to them as Froyo shops.
I love it. And I kind of forgot about that lens towards a different demographic. So thank you for giving that framework for everyone. You went from being a franchisee to now the CEO. What was your inspiration for making that shift and kind of taking over the company in that different role?
Yeah, it I think was really just the fact that this thing can grow uh, and be really successful, but it just wasn't, other than the things that I was doing in New York City. And so it kind of felt like I was gatekeeping a secret business, but it also wasn't a secret business. And then as I started to reach out to other franchisees, I find out that they have the same feelings and the same experience, and are making very good money for this business, and very happy, but just like kind of dumbfounded as to why other brands are the national brands and we're just like the New York, tri-state area brand. And so that was kind of the ambition, is like, okay, well, let's go after those stores, or those brands that have got to 300, 400 units around the country, because we do have a better product. We have better branding and marketing. And, numbers wise, we tend to perform better. So there's no reason they should have the upper hand. It's just that 16 Handles hadn't grown because they weren't focused on that kind of scalability. And so once I knew how to run the business well, how to build new stores in the modern era, uh, where you want to kind of keep your GC cost down to a minimum, especially because that has kind of gone haywire. It just made sense to try and scale it, and there was no way I was going to be able to do that just myself, because it would have been the limiting factor. Whereas with franchising, we could have 15 stores under construction at a time, and I'm involved in every single one. I especially like the real estate and construction side of this business, and so I'm able to sort of help people along that journey, while at the same time they learn so much about construction, and feed off the knowledge that we put onto our onboarding software and all that. So the main driver is just like, why is this brand not hugely successful, and who's the team that's going to take it there? And so that's even one thing that it is the first person I hired when I took over the franchise was Lisa Mallon, who owns co-owns with her husband the Fairfield, Connecticut location, and has 13 years of history training and operating that location, which is a very, very successful location. And so, who knows the brand better and believes in the brand more than people who've been successful with the brand? And like, if you think as a franchisee who's going to buy a business and then need to get trained on how that business really functions from the back, do you want to learn from somebody at a corporate office who's just like their role is just to train you and they just read a training guide and now, spitting it back out, or somebody who's got, 13 years of literally running a store open to close and, knows customer interactions and what customers want and, how to make the best bang for your buck on this business. And so that's kind of been our strategy.
I love it. I want to talk a little bit about product innovation and just the pop culture tie-ins that your brand seems to always be doing. You've launched wild flavors. They've kind of been aligned with certain, pop culture moments at times. How do you get the inspiration for that and decide what's next?
In short, I'm part of the customer base. My family, my friends, everyone is part of the customer base. So it's just ideas that we have. Sometimes it's also the franchisees give us great ideas. So there's not like a real system to it. It's just like, oh my God, this would be hilarious. And then once we can view both the flavor profile and the marketing behind it, it just seems to always come together. And there's also been a lot of flavors, for the French fry frozen yogurt that we launched, which was kind of all marketed towards playing on McDonald's, always having the broken McFlurry machines. Our big marketing campaign was sorry, our French fry machine is down because, it's always their machine is broken. So we also thought about doing a pickle flavor. And after testing a bunch and trying to figure out where the marketing goes from there, we decided not to do it. So for every flavor that we've launched, there's probably, multiple ones in the back burner that we've tried. We've even done the research on actually making the flavor happen. And it just didn't like hit home on the marketing, or like when we sort of tested it with friends and family, it just like, it wasn't there. They're like, I don't really get it. And whereas the ones that we've done have made a lot of sense and been really fun. And we're going to continue doing it. I mean, our sales growth has been phenomenal. In months like when we launched French fry or the Squid Games inspired flavor or the butter beer out of Harry Potter, our sales are up like 30-40% the week that we launched compared to prior years. So it really does make a difference. And when I came into this seat, this is kind of a funny anecdote. I haven't really told anyone, but I always thought that 16 Handles launched a new flavor every month on the 16th. I don't know why I thought that, but I thought that was a thing. And so 16 Handles, before I had bought it, had stopped doing that. We barely ever launched flavors as a brand, but I had assumed that originally they had launched a new flavor every month on the 16th. So we set that as a main focus, that we're going to launch a new flavor every month on the 16th, which is a very difficult goal, especially as you're expanding across the country, building distribution, et cetera. But I just thought that was a core principle of 16 Handles. Turns out that was never a thing for 16 Handles, but we've now made it one. And our customers even come on the 16th expecting a new flavor. And it's great because we always have one, and they're always fun, and they're not just for the same audience every month. It's not always going after the money. There are flavors. We did a sour swirl, which was like a sour patch, which is a crazy thing to launch. Like a sour frozen yogurt is not something anybody asked for. Super popular with kids, really great flavor. And all that marketing was, targeted towards our young audience, because we do have a young audience. We get a lot of young families. So parents with, a few, the 3 and the 5-year-old and whatnot, who are coming to hang out for an hour and getting Froyo. And then you get the after school rush. We still totally get it. 3:00 after school, the store is flooded with kids. So we kind of focus the flavor launches to play to different audiences to continue to bring people in. In the earlier part of this year, we launched a mango lassi flavor, which was targeted towards that South Asian community more, where that's a very well known kind of drink in India and Pakistan. And it's great. And I had it when I was in India and Pakistan and Nepal. And so that's why in my head, I was like, this would be a cool flavor. And so we started to put it together and brought in real Alfonso mangoes and made it happen.
That's so awesome. I'm so glad you told me that story about the flavors. That's amazing.
Yeah, I really
And
thought it was a thing.
But you kind of teed up the next question so perfectly because I was curious about balancing consistency with like trying new stuff and bringing new flavors in. Is that a challenge? How do you guys balance that?
So the great thing is it's 16 handles, so there's always 16 flavors. So there's always like so much. It's like hard to choose, and that's why we even have the little dividers inside cups so that our guests can get 3 or 4 or 6 flavors, and they don't even touch because I hate when flavors touch. But some people will just pile it on top of each other. It's just total preferences. But that's the goal with 16 handles. It's like no matter what you want, we have it. And so that's kind of the answer is from the customer side, no matter what you want, we should have something that fits. We'll always have a vanilla. We'll always have a cookies and cream, a birthday cake, a chocolicious. They may not be the same ones, but there'll be some variety of a chocolate at a store, no matter what, because we know that's kind of the standard. The tart flavor, the original 16 handles kind of yogurt taste, always will be at a store. But then um, there's still 5 or 8 flavors that will move around, and so you might get a salted caramel one week, you might get a mint chocolate chip the next week, uh, a coffee. There's still a lot of room to move things around, and so uh, it's the consistency that needs to be there is there. And we also let our operators choose. There's some markets where cotton candy just moves amazing, and so they keep cotton candy all the time. Others where it's barely ever in. So we let our operators have that flexibility because they know their stores best, right? They're the ones who are um, they're meeting the customers every single day, and every single market has its own kind of flavor preferences. But now on the back end, it's much harder. Like that was one of the hardest things about franchising, and especially scaling the brand and growing into new territories like Texas, like Arizona, the Carolinas, is having all these flavors available all the time, not knowing what demand will be, not knowing when all of a sudden Dubai chocolate becomes a craze and we have to get Dubai chocolate everywhere. And no matter how much we make, it's disappearing faster than we could ever expect. So we have to keep making it, but to make it, we have to import product from multiple different places around the world. And then our government is putting new tariffs, and everything is changing day to day. So it's like there's a lot of unpredictability that goes into making things consistent across a brand. And I think this goes for probably every large brand that's in multiple territories. Is It's really hard to have that consistent menu. And so a lot of our team is always working on that to just make sure everything is stocked at the store, so that the customers aren't like, why don't you guys have Dubai chocolate? I saw an email about it. It's like, no, they come in, they saw an email about it, it's there.
That's awesome. You just have a marketing brain, I can totally tell. And I feel like customer loyalty and just brand experience is the heart of marketing. So, talk to us a little bit about your loyalty program. Anything that you want to share in terms of how it works, or maybe different things you've tried, would be amazing.
Yeah, so we're on a point system. We recently moved, effectively every dollar you spend, you get a point. If you come on the 16th, which is our launch day, you get 2 points for every dollar you spend. And then there's a few national holidays, a few kind of random things that we do, just free points, giveaways, whatnot. But effectively, it's you collect points on every dollar you spend. We switched to using the point shop method. Versus just the accrue and spend. So instead of like every time you hit 50 points, you get a discount, and then you start from scratch and you kind of keep accruing points. We've moved to the point shop, which is more like a Starbucks. I think was probably the initial leader of the pack for point shops, where you accrue points, you decide what you want to spend it on, you decide when you want to spend it, whether it's for a coffee or a mug, right? It's like you have total power over your decisions based on your points. And I guess this all stems from like credit cards teaching us about points, right? So it's been a long training, but that's the direction we went into as a brand to give our customers a little bit more variety and also flexibility. So there's low point, low discount options. There's save more, spend more type point options. And then there's like fun little merch things and other things where if you don't care so much about the cost, but you want like little collectible items of $60 because you're, a real brand hippie, then it's like we have those too. So, um, yeah, and overall, it really helps. I mean, especially being able to reward people who had a really negative experience, who you can see were a valued customer, had a bad experience, and didn't come back after that. To have some kind of method where you can sort of incentivize them to come back is like, tens of thousands of dollars a year if you look at that in scale. Um, and there are people who just have that one bad experience. They go to a different, ice cream shop or dessert shop next time, and then that becomes their new consistent place. And it's not even because the product better or anything. It's just they had that one bad experience, so they went to the next place, and now that's the cycle. And so, there has to be a method to trying to pull those customers back. And your two options are either get them some kind of free product, which is just cost of goods, which is much lower, or try and do paid marketing at them where you have no idea how much it's going to cost until they come back, and you don't even know how to necessarily target that customer because it's a little broad. So it is just a great resource, and on that side, on the back end of trying to win back customers, and then also reward your valued customers, especially the ones who are most loyal or coming back consistently. And then it's great. Like we even have some tricks now where the employees can tell how loyal a customer is right when you're at the register scanning your app. So the ability for now employees to give you that little extra, it should always be great service, but that little extra from their end, because they know they're speaking to somebody who probably is going to come back to the store within a week or something like that is great.
You're leading me right into reviews and customer engagement and just kind of how you all think of that customer connection. So to start, maybe you can share like your review philosophy and kind of how you think of reviews. It doesn't have to be just Yelp either. Just give me the gamut of listening to customers and how they talk to you about their experiences.
Yeah, so we do reviews a few different ways. We try and internalize reviews from our best, most loyal customers, because that's actually great mystery shopper info too, good or bad. Those are the people who kind of know what to look for best. And so those are longer reviews. Those are powered by Tattle, which is a company founded by one of my good friends, Alex. They do a really great job internalizing reviews, again, good and bad, to make operational decisions. So those are really important for us as a franchisor to know what's going on with our locations, and for store operators to know what's going on from the customer's mind, either with them there or if they're not there that day, what the customer experiences when they're not around. If they take off Tuesdays and every Tuesday their reviews are 1 or 2 stars lower than they typically are, then they know something's gone amiss with the way that they've trained their staff. So we internalize a lot, and then on the external side, we do definitely watch it on Google, on Yelp, and anywhere else where reviews are posted, because it is really important to understand the customer feedback. I think the hardest part on that feedback is usually people leave a review because they had a really amazing experience or a really terrible experience, and so you don't get the kind of the meat of the pack. You just get the edges. And so it makes it a little hard to use those reviews as a like long-term decision maker. And unfortunately, the bad ones, you want to like really, use those to learn from. But, sometimes it's just there's a miscommunication or something, and it just really lends to a bad experience, but it's not necessarily anybody's fault. And it's not that you should just give the customer a free product because they had this one bad experience, and whatever it is. So it's hard to say like those reviews are the most beneficial operations wise, but obviously they power so much SEO online that we're always trying to get more good reviews. So yeah, I mean it's hard to give a perfect answer on what we do with reviews, because it always depends on what the review is. But it does kind of stink that the majority of people aren't leaving reviews at all, and so you really only get like the really good and the really bad.
Totally. And I think so many business owners can empathize with that and, feel the pain themselves. I'm curious about how you guys handle reputation management at scale. Is there like a playbook or recommendations? Do owner operators handle their locations on their own? How do you guys actually like do the listening and the responding across the organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we use an integration with Yext, which sort of aggregates uh, a lot of the information on our listings to make sure that if you go to Yelp or you go to Google, the hours are the same in both places and they're correct. Because that is the most frustrating, right? You go to a place because they're open and they're not open. So Yext helps us with that, but then it also helps us with review aggregation, both at a store level, so you can see all the online reviews of any location, um, and then also on a brand level, we can see all the reviews of all locations at any given time. And then for responding to them, uh, it's changing, I would say, right now because AI has been really prevalent in this space, where usually the responses are quite simple. It's if somebody had a great experience, thanks so much. It was great serving you, something like that. And if it's a negative experience, it's usually trying to. Many times it's like the reviews cut short because it's just a few sentences. It's like tricky to figure out exactly what it was that went so poorly that they left a 1 or 2 star review. And so it's a lot of times, can you email us or can you contact us so we can learn more about it, or just an apology if something really just fell short at the store, some kind of reason, something to reassure guests in the future who see that review, hey, hopefully this won't be your experience, we've learned from it. There's been points in the brand's history where we've required responses to every single review, and there's even like reviews on Uber, like on Uber Eats. You can get like a quick little review, and like that's super deep. It's a lot to log into every single platform and respond to every single review. And so we've had people on our team at corporate basically check in if a review hasn't been responded to within 48 hours, respond to it on the brand's behalf, and then also let the store know what was responded to. So we have done that. It just there's no long-term perfect solution we found, but I think a lot, like I said, is probably getting automated, but not by a human at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important process to keep in mind because franchise models often show areas that you can make processes or streamline things that can also be used by independent owners. So it is important to think about what you can automate. And to your point, if you're still downloading on the feedback and getting the feedback, I think that's the most important part of, the customer engagement process. So that makes total sense to me. Do you have any stories or standout moments that you remember from a good or a bad review that really made an impact on you? It's okay if not. I just thought maybe when you were an owner, if there was ever some insider scoop, positive or negative, that you gleaned through an online review.
I mean, not the greatest or biggest story ever, but we used to have one girl who ordered every single day from a location, a delivery order, almost always the exact same order, sometimes like one little variation. And it would always come through around the same time, to the point where when you heard the printer printing at that time, the employees, or if I was working, we just look at each other and we knew it was her order and we knew what to do. And then it was her order. And then one day I saw a review posted online, and it was a picture of her bag at her coffee table, with the Froyo and whatever. And it was just a 5 star review. Love this place. Great chocolate. She always got the chocolate. So it was just nice to humanize something that was such a routine part of business, and say oh my God, every time we pack this, even though it feels monotonous that we're packing the same order every single day, there's somebody at the other end who all day is probably looking forward to this moment of opening up this bag. And so I guess that was a nice moment that I remember from my Murray Hill location.
I love that. That was a great story. I won't tell you where, but I admittedly am known by name at a dessert place that I sometimes frequent.
Yeah.
Okay. Any advice that you would give to other business owners about online reputation, engaging with customers in that digital age? Anything you want to share there that you feel like is something that you've learned or developed in your time?
I think the hardest part is we know that it helps SEO to have good reviews, but we don't know how much. Uh, and so sometimes it can be, uh, or you can lose motivation because of that, right? It's just like, why do I need to respond? Why do I care? It's a Saturday night. Like, I don't care that they just left me a 1-star review. I'm out doing something with my friends or something. It's like, so like I understand that happens, and I think it happens because you don't know, is this really benefiting my business? Are there more guests? But the answer is, it for sure is changing things, because the stores that have higher reviews and more active reviews and responses on their reviews, positive or negative, do have higher revenue in our system. And so there definitely is a connection, and so you do have to somewhat stay active on top of it, even if you have no idea how much it's helping. Um, Obviously, it doesn't, like, if your product sucks and all those things, then it doesn't matter how good your reviews are. It's not going to be a successful long term business. So there's so many other elements that go into it, but uh, there definitely is a component where being active online is boosting your SEO, which is boosting the amount of people who learn about your store by googling dessert near me or restaurant or snack, whatever it is that you do. It definitely does make a difference, and so you know playing to your good customers and responding and making reason for the low reviews, and hopefully solving the issues, uh, will bring more guests through the door, which is all that every business is looking to do.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about what makes the 16 handles model an attractive model for franchisees. Why do you think it's a good business to get into?
So dessert, overall, is a good business because it's a high margin, relatively low labor business. So just as a standalone business, um, it works. A brand, where it helps is you get one, both unique product from the brand, unique marketing from the brand, and then everything in scale. So if you try and negotiate with a POS or negotiate with a vendor for a proprietary flavor, and you have one location, you're uh, screwed is a nice way to put it. And then if you're a brand, you have much more negotiating power. Like, we're taking containers from overseas with our cups and our spoons every month. We're taking truckloads every week of product coming out of the dairy farm. So we're just able to negotiate that at scale, which lead to a better product and a cheaper cost. So that's where the brand side wins. The 16 handle side is, I think, it's just an excellent brand that really plays to today's market more than ever, especially where culture is shifting a little away from alcohol culture, and so we're looking for these experiential moments that aren't at a bar. And 16 handles is that place, and that's very much what we've leaned into. It's the place you can go out on a date, bring your family, hang out with your friends, and actually sit and enjoy. And most ice cream shops, like, they try and take the smallest square footage available, and 16 handles doesn't do that. We want you to sit, we want you to hang out. This is supposed to, like, be the place where you have those amazing moments that you want to recreate, all while eating the best frozen yogurt you've ever had. So I think that's kind of the main value prop of 16 handles. And then on the business side, uh, I think franchising works so well because you get both the economies of scale of a brand, like we talked about earlier, but then also that local community tie-in, because most of our franchisees, uh, are in their community. They have kids in the school districts. They know the doctors around town. They know the restaurants that people are going to. And that's like, when people are like, where's the right place for 16 handles? It's like, where are you going for dinner on Friday or Saturday night? That's the right place for 16 handles. Like, if you're just the first place you think of, that's probably it. So, you know, having that local tie into the community really brings the whole thing home. And so you get the benefits of a big brand and the benefits of a small brand all in one. And that's why I think, franchise. worked so well for frozen yogurt and has worked great for 16 Handles, where we have like so many successful franchisees who have also, really embraced becoming that community leader by owning, the small business in town.
I love that. It really does tie the two things together, and that makes for a success. You want to talk a little bit about the self-serve model? And you mentioned earlier, like dessert has high margins, but how does that self-serve model impact labor as well as the customer experience? I'm sure it's kind of like a seesaw a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it worked great because the customer gets their own individuality. They get to, pick any combination of flavors, exactly how many chocolate chips or rainbow sprinkles or how much of a scoop of cookie dough to put on. So from the customer side, just having that giant topping bar and those 16 flavors to choose from is overwhelming. And to not have to like be rushed to order is a huge benefit and draws people to add more to their cup, which is good for their happiness and good for the store operators. So it's good for the customer. And then for the operator side, that means their employees are more doing a team member cafe handling type role. And there's overall less employees because that's not a bottleneck where, we need to take multiple, we have 200 guests coming in this hour. How do we get them all through? We need this many people to take them. There's none of that. So instead the line sort of forms on its own and the employees are really cafe handling, able to talk to the guests about different flavors, answer the questions while out of the machine wall, help restock toppings behind the topping bar and check people out. And so we can operate with a lot fewer employees where a typical QSR may have, 10 to 15 people on shift. The typical 16 Handles has 10 to 15 total employees, of which maybe only, 3 or 4 are on shift, even during a busy night.
You provided such great, helpful context. Let's close by just telling people where they can find you, whether that's looking for a 16 Handles location to go try, or if they're interested in the business model, where can they learn more?
Yeah, 16handles.com is the place for everything. We are growing our location count, especially in the South and Florida and Texas, but we're all over the tri-state and continuing to expand here as well. And hopefully we'll fill in the East Coast and then start moving west. So hopefully we'll have a store near you. And if you're the person to put that store there, then just click the franchising tab on our website.
Amazing. And what's one piece of advice you would give someone thinking about starting a franchise or a food dessert business?
Be ready to be on your feet a lot. Be ready to really work the front because that's where the magic happens. And a lot of people just assume these, small businesses are turnkey, and they are, but turnkey doesn't mean automatically successful. So it does take some work. And, a lot of that is interacting with your customers because they're the ones who make or break the business at the end of the day. And so people are always surprised, especially coming from like an office job, how much time on your feet you spend in hospitality. And, anyone who's been a waitress or a waiter or, worked in hospitality will know that's true.
Absolutely. Okay, last question. Is there anything you wish you knew before you became CEO?
There's probably many things. I think, one thing that we do well, but can always do better is just figuring out like a good internal team and amount of communication between everybody to make sure everybody's on the same page, but we're not like all doing the same task all at once is always a tricky part of managing. And that goes for really any size business is, there's a magic to delegating that doesn't come natural sometimes. And so figuring that out and figuring out really who the most valuable people on your team are and using their skills and abilities to the most efficient, best way, while not, not to say wasting labor on a dollar side, but just wasting sort of time and not doing things as efficiently as you could.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notifications each week that we drop a new episode. And head to business.yelp.com to add your business to Yelp, claim your free business user account, or just update and modify any business information. You can comment below if you have questions or send me an email at podcasts@yelp.com. I'd especially love to know if you want to be on the show. And to see if there's a 16 Handles location near you or learn more about their franchising opportunities, head to 16handles.com. See you next time.